You're listening to another episode of Rig Recon Live. I'm Bruce Quick alongside Jason Whitmire. And before we get started on today's episode and today's guest, make sure you follow us on social media at Rig Recon. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And then make sure you turn on those post notifications so you catch up on all the latest podcasts. You can find this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. And then finally, most important, visit rigrecon.com for all the latest apparatus information. Like we keep on preaching, when you're going to spec your next truck or even you want to do some upgrades on your truck, which we'll talk about today, Rig Recon is the all-in-one site that you're going to want to go to. The product comparisons, technical videos, how-to videos, product overview videos, quite the library of content on not just our products, but other products that you can compare to as well. So Jason, as we get started today, we're joined by the legendary, should I say, Andy Plofkin, an OG of the industry. And Andy, I won't take any of your thunder, so why don't you introduce yourself, kind of what you do for us here at Elkhart Brass, and take it away.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, guys. Andy Plofkin, Director of North American Regional Sales, basically oversee our team of 6 regional managers that are out and about visiting fire departments, dealers throughout the country. I'm on my 42nd year in the fire service. Come from a long list of firemen in my family. We're right at 12 members, and my individual family, we're at about 167 years total of fire service. So quite a long time, been hanging around the firehouse since I was 5 years old. Coming up on my 10th year at Safe Fleet Elkhart Brass. And I'm also on staff. We were just at IFSI last week. So I am on staff there as part of their engine ops group. And we are also a corporate partner to them.
Yeah, Andy, before we get started, Jason, I want to throw a curveball at you. So you kind of hinted on a lot of years of experience in the fire service industry. Maybe can you give us a defining moment, maybe in your life or in your career, that you knew, like, I'm going to be in the fire industry forever. I just love it.
It was actually going to New York Fire Chiefs. I was 18 years old because I knew that because we were allowed to drink on the bus on the way up there with my fire department. And we would take a 53 passenger motor coach up to Kiamisha Lake. And it was actually the first time I had ever gone to a fire conference. And just walking around and seeing the apparatus, I said to myself, wow, wouldn't it be awesome to get involved in this and be a part of that? And it happened about a year or two after I got out of college. One of the neighbors owned a company and went to work for him. And it's been pretty much since then been around the whole industry. Right at, I believe, 36, 37 years in the industry.
Very
That's
nice.
awesome.
Andy, 167 years as a family. So you're getting close to what Jerry Herbst has alone.
Not too far off.
We all work together and we like to pick on each other. So Andy, as we get started here today, just let's get something out there for everyone. Obviously, you're our coworker. You work for Elkhart Brass. You're part of the family here. This is not a podcast today designed to just mail one in and throw it out of, oh, buy Elkhart, buy ROM, buy FRC, buy Foam Pro. It's not about that. What your field team brings is more than just selling product. It's more than just talking about our product in general. And that's what we wanted to talk about and touch on today is you've got a field team out there. You mentioned it's a team of 6. Let's touch on where they're located around the country and what they carry and what they do and how something like flow equipment, for example, can benefit a fire company, not just from evaluating a nozzle, but beyond that.
Yeah. Our biggest thing with the whole team is educating the consumer. And honestly, the end user cannot buy from us. They have to buy through a distribution channel of some sort. So it's very important for people to know that we're technically not salesmen. We are out there educating the public on our products and on our competitors' products in some cases for their understanding from that. But in the Northeast, we have Bill Aletto. He covers that Northeast region for us. Right below him would be Chad Smith, basically from the coast coming out to Pennsylvania, Kentucky area. Right below him would be Jeff Banker covering those Carolinas out to Tennessee, Alabama. We have Chris Thwaites down doing Florida and Georgia. Come west of there, and you would have Matt Butcher. He's out of Texas and covers a big area. And then above him would be Corey Berglund coming out of Minnesota and basically covering the Midwest out to those central states from there. And then everything west of that, I'm covering currently as we'll be looking for a new member of the team come after the first of the year for that West Coast region.
Just touch on, Andy. So you covered the regions you cover, or the regions that are covered by the individual salesmen or the individual regionals. Let's talk about what they carry. What's on their truck? They're all set up a little bit different, but in general, what are their capabilities? What do they carry?
Yeah, all of them have basically, we've streamlined to where we're all in an F-250 crew cab, 8-foot box with a slide out on it that is capable of 1,800 pounds. And I'm sure every one of us is overloaded to some degree on that. And every one of them carries a variety of nozzles. We cover lighting. We carry all types of different, whether it's our Spectra or Radiant models. We also have our ROM roll-up door. Sometimes they'll have the display, sometimes they won't, but they certainly carry parts for that. And then we go ahead also, and we'll have some Foam Pro different products along those lines of what it could be as far as a flow sensor or possibly pressure transducer or cable or two that each of the guys are carrying with them at this point. And we're out there really to bring it home to the end user with those various products. It could be they're looking at handline nozzles, and then that'll go right into possibly standpipe operations. We could be doing portable monitor, master stream, or even some type of large device even. If we had to go into a potential industrial setting or something where someone's looking for 2,000 or greater, we can get the products and go in there and help the people with that. So a lot of the guys also teach at various conferences throughout the country and will assist. And we also have a demo cache and hot cache for the end user to be able to get and supply them with that also. So we have a lot of resources within the team to be able to provide what they need. The biggest thing, I would say, the challenge of the team is every one of them, except for Chris, covering 7 states, which is a lot of geography, and, being patient that we have to make routes. And, I always direct the guys to go ahead and make a good loop when you're out there and hit 3, 4, 5 places, whatever it is, because with a vast territory like that, it's pretty difficult to be able to be everywhere at once. So,
Bruce, you get involved a lot with, even through marketing, with how we set some of these up. Do you have anything you want to quiz Andy on his truck?
Yeah, no, I think you started to hint on it. Obviously, Elkhart Brass is the most recognizable name across the team of companies that you represent, but it's also important to highlight that you guys represent FRC, ROM, and Foam Pro. So not only are you guys super knowledgeable in flow and that sort of operation, but maybe highlight the stuff you guys do with lighting and door parts and even foam knowledge that you can cover on your truck or just a demo as well.
Yeah, each one of the guys that we hired when we interviewed for the positions, we looked at someone that had sold multiple products. So everyone that we've hired has come through the fire service, whether they worked for another company selling different products, but they always had a variety to go with, because when you have someone that's only sold one product, it's very hard for them to pivot to the next. So with that, we talked about the Elkhart products. On the FRC side, we have the ability we have a cube that they can carry on board that will show you the different governors that we have, the different tank level gauges. We have boards that they could bring in if someone was doing a speccing meeting of one night and they wanted us to come in. We have the ability to bring that product in and show them what it looks like so they get a better understanding. Same with the Apex valves on the apparatus, but also the lighting. So we have a variety of anything from 14,000 lumens all the way up to 32,000 in a pole light. And then we obviously have our Crest Light series, So Bright, many different options, Work Pro. We even do backup cameras, and we talk to the customer about that, whether it's hardwired or wireless. And then along with those lines, we do a 360 camera system. So FRC offers a great, product rich line to be able to go in and talk to people outside. I'd say the biggest thing is between those two products alone, you have, you can go anywhere and talk to someone about product. It's very easy. As we, advance into the ROM side of it, we can be in somewhere and they might have a door that we see scratched, and we can show them how to change a slat. If we have something going on with a switch, whether it's a 3-wire, 5-wire, meaning it's either hardwired or multiplexed, we can discuss that with them and who they need to go to get the part. Those are all part of the things that we offer when we're in there. And the team certainly is always looking at the apparatus for, hey, did you know this? That, hey, this is missing a magnet here, or, the light is going off or something. Why is that? Well, there's no magnet or the switch is bad. It's interesting, on a ROM door, you only need 3 components to go ahead and dissect it. And that's basically a 16 penny nail, a paper clip, and a magnet. And you can go ahead and troubleshoot a door very easily. And we learn that through the training process with each of them and our annual trainings that we do. The next product on the Foam Pro side, we can assist with developing whether or not they're looking at a Class A only system, maybe a Class A and B system, off-board pickup, A/B tank selector. Once it starts to, I think, get a little bit deeper than that in sizing the system, whether they want a single point, a multi-point, I think, that's when we start to bring in some of our product specialists. And that would be Dan Tyrell on the Foam Pro side, bringing him in to help out. Or on the ROM side, it would be Marcus Allen. We have a amazing amount of resources within the company to go deeper on anything that's required to do that. So, and knowing, what the foams today are, what viscosity they are, and how they'll interact with our products, being able to see that and then dive in deeper on that level.
And it's kind of funny you didn't do this on purpose. We just set us up a little bit for October. Our webinar series in October is on sizing a foam system. So it's not a webinar on how a foam system necessarily operates. It's not about what foams are out there. It is really focused on what size system should I have, and what are the limitations. Like, biggest isn't always the best. It depends on what your application is. So kind of a good setup for that. One thing I wanted to point out, just so we don't forget and lose sight, and you mentioned the experience of your team. We used to calculate the years. We haven't calculated that in a little while now, but it's important to note that every one of the people on that team that's coming out to talk to you is either a former firefighter, a current volunteer, and if they're not in the fire service, they've had fire training through us. Like at IFSI, they've had live fire training. So when they talk to you about what you're doing and what you're experiencing they've experienced it themselves. They know what you're doing and what you do on scene and how you operate. So they're coming to you with a point of view.
Yeah, and I wanted to echo that, Jason. I think, I want to make a statement. We're one of, if not the most hands-on regional team probably in the industry. I mean, not only can our guys do product demos and explain you through that, but Andy, you started to talk about it. Our guys can also do a lot of field service for your department and help you repair things and get things back up and running. So maybe can you talk a little bit more about that and sort of how you structure the regionals approach it and doing that?
So a lot of times it's phone conversations, starting with that. I can tell you the biggest thing is a picture's worth 1,000 words. When someone goes ahead and says, hey, I got this, and this going on, send me 2 or 3 pictures. And then from there, we can help before it has to go to our customer service team to be able to elaborate further on that or determine what parts are required. a lot of people think that we have so much internal access to the company as the outside, team, but we still have to go inside to the technical service guys to get some drawings or different things because we have so much on our website that it can be difficult to find some of it. I was just working on an older, like a 25-year-old Stinger today that it's hard to find parts for that. So being able to go ahead and talk to someone about that. But the guys will come out.
And what was the Andy? What was the part number in that Stinger?
Just with the 8296.
In case our people don't know, Andy is like, I don't know the right word to say, but all part numbers stick in his head, and he throws us for a loop because he'll say, "Hey, what about that B96A?" And we're like, "What? Just call it what it is instead of the part number."
Yeah, I just think differently, I guess. But
Andy, let's talk a little bit about Know Your Flow quick. So
Yep.
in the industry, we've always joked around with our team internally and said, "Oh, our guys are flow bros. They just go out and flow water." Well, let's face the facts. It's a lot more fun at times to go out and flow water than it is to talk about a roll-up door.
Sure.
But when it comes to flowing water, the first thing that someone's going to think is, okay, you just want to come flow water with me because you want to sell me a nozzle. Well, of course, Elkhart is in the business of making and selling nozzles. However, when we do a Know Your Flow class, there's so much more you can get out of it than just looking at what our nozzle does versus what the competition's nozzle does. I'd like you to elaborate some on, Andy, what a Know Your Flow class can do for you from the standpoint of your rig and then from the standpoint of your equipment.
Sure. The biggest thing is coming in and evaluating what they have. And I hate to say it, but there's so many departments that they know a name brand, but they don't know the flow characteristics. They don't know what the capabilities are of it. And they don't even know sometimes if it's broken. And that's something that we'll go in and start with. Let's get a baseline. Where are you? What do we need to figure out to get you to that next level? I will tell you, with brass tacks, rig recon, and all these different sites, engine work has become cool again, right? Each one of the guys are out, you had said the flow bros, that there are, each guy is doing between 50 and 100 demos a year. You add that up across, 7, 8 people, that really starts to hit a lot of departments and then develop. But we're not in there for one department. We're in there at typically multiple departments. But anyway, when we're going in there, we're hooking up a flow meter. We prefer to hook the flow meter up on the intake side so that we don't have to calibrate every time we hook up to a discharge. So that gives us that ability to do anything from basically 30 gallons a minute up to 500. We'll go ahead, per the NFPA 1962, you should have a gauge at the discharge and then at the midpoint and then behind the nozzle or a pitot. And basically, we will go in and determine what their current flow is, and then we will help them go ahead and look at, the worst I've ever seen was someone flowing 67 gallons a minute that thought they were flowing 150. Couple other things that have come out of this, for some reason, about 4 or 5 times a year when I'm out flowing, I find the one piece of 1.5-inch hose that they said they got rid of 10 years ago. It's mixed in and nobody knew it. And the other thing is the older legacy products, a lot of times they looked similar for a complete flow range where you had to really look at the baffle in the front to determine if it was a 150 at 75 or a 95. And I found a 95 mixed in that they thought that they had the 150 at 75 on that line. So it really exposed quite a bit of it. But the biggest thing that it does now is we are accounting for friction loss in the plumbing when we're starting with that from the intake side coming through. And the worst for me to date on that is I've seen a 45-pound difference between crosslay 1 and crosslay 2. So that is significant, and the customer had no idea. They just said, hey, man, we're not getting the flow that we think we should. Let's go ahead and do that. It was on a combi tip, so they needed some type of flow meter to go ahead and determine what the flow was, and then be able to go in there and assist them with that. There's also all these different hybrid hose models now where you've got 2-inch, 2 1/4, 2.5. The old 2.5 was 2 3/4 inches in some cases, almost 3 inch, because you could never be under, but you could be over. And that starts to lend itself to, guys having the ability to move quicker and get to the seat of the fire, or be able to move around on the fire ground. And also, we go all the way up to a portable monitor. And I can't tell you how many times I'm out and the friction loss for 100 feet of 2.5 at 500 gallons a minute is 50 psi. And everybody thinks it's still 10 or 15 or whatever it is at that 250 gallon a minute range. And, some guys will even try to double it, and it's nowhere near. But, if you jump up to 3 inch, that drops that down, and that really helps them. But it's funny when I tell someone that, on a 200-foot lead out, we got to pump this at 225, 250 psi, their eyes are like, oh my gosh, I'm going to blow the truck up. And it's nowhere near that. So, but that's what it takes to flow that volume of water if you're going to pull that portable monitor. So pretty significant.
That's cool.
The things that we bring to the table when we're in there educating the customer on that.
I mean, if you think about the old days, if you were going to set up a flow chart for your rig, it was all math.
Yep.
It was okay. Cross-leg 1 has 200 feet of 1 3/4. I look up the friction loss for that hose manufacturer per 100 feet. If I got a 150 at 50 nozzle, I want 50 at the end. So I add up those friction losses, and that's my pump discharge pressure. The new school is, I know your flow class is going to put a flow meter on it. You're going to flow your exact hose with that nozzle, and we're going to tell you, you're going to dial it in right there. And you're going to end up at the end of that class with a chart that says, here's what I should flow discharge 1 at. Here's what I should flow discharge 2 at. It's a lot more accurate.
It's way more accurate. And we really follow in a lot of cases along the line of NFPA 1962 that we're going in there and doing that, which each department should do annually. And if you look at our Vote GPM campaigns, I think we might have hit 5% this year of the departments that actually do that. And that's their first line attack. I mean, you need that. You need water to put out fire. So getting it right makes it a whole lot easier for everyone.
You touched on a secret in the industry. I'm gonna bring it back up again, just so everyone makes sure they captured what you said there. Hose sizing. So in the industry, someone thinks, oh, I got 1 3/4 hose. Well, if I do the simple math, that's 1.75 inches in diameter. Not necessarily true. There's no code that says that a 1.75 inch rated hose needs to be exactly 1.75 inches on the inside. It could be all the way up to, what's the worst case you've seen an 1 3/4 actually sized at, Andy?
I've seen it 191.
So it can be a lot larger than what you were thinking. And then when you're getting into things like, how much does my hose weigh? Well, you were doing the math on a cylinder that's 1.75 inches. It's different when it's 1.91 inches. It's holding more water. It's heavier. Those little things all come into play when we do a know your flow.
Exactly. And the ability for people to move it around. I mean, most of the guys will carry a premium brand hose on their rig, because a lot of times when we're going in somewhere, they don't have the right hose to match to their current setup. So we'll be bringing in something to show them what the best possible solution is. And I mean, that's really when the light bulb moment happens for everyone, is that they have a very poor setup. And then all of a sudden you put in their hands that, that gold standard, as they say, attack package. And that thing just looks and feels like it should in the hand. And I always relate it to a pool noodle. If you have a pool noodle in your hand, that thing's going to snap back and sit there and have rigidity to it. And that's what you're looking for. And it's the last 10 feet, maybe 15 feet of the hose is where the lowest pressure is, especially with 50 PSI. And that's what the majority of the fire service is going to be able to get that lower reaction force, gallons per minute, and be able to extinguish the fire. And, that last 10 feet is where it's dropping down right to that 50 PSI at the inlet. Maybe the last 10 feet is in that 60 range. And that's where the hose really has to perform its best.
Right.
And as we sort of shift the podcast into the next subject, Andy, there's several rigs across the nation that are aging, and then people are looking to upgrade them to keep them in service longer. And one of the big upgrades that our team can offer is a lighting upgrade. So maybe talk to us about the process of a LED lighting upgrade and how the guys will come in and walk around the truck and determine the lights needed and how to set that up, and that it's something that we can offer to them as well.
Yeah, our team does this all the time where when we're in working with the customer, we will talk to them about LED upgrades or they'll reach out to us. We've done quite a bit of marketing campaigns on the Radiant Map program and the LED upgrade program. I think it's been running about 4 or 5 years now. We've done exceptionally well with it. The biggest thing is I'm looking at what they have now, the halogen light, whatever it may be, and 90% of what's out there has a 1.25 inch pole on a pole mount, or it's 3/4 MPT. And we've actually adapted our knuckles now to accept a 1.25 inch collar, where before you had to order a separate component. But we actually offer extra discount to the dealer for this program. And then on the MAP program, we have basically a 15,000 Radiant Eco, and it's $1,549 for 2 lamp heads. You can get it in white or black. If you add a switch to it, it goes to $1,599. So that is to the customer, delivered with no shipping costs and a lifetime warranty. And that's something else that we added in the last 2 years was a lifetime warranty on all of our Spectra, Radiant lights, So Brights, Crest lights. All of those are included in that. And basically, by going around that rig, we're decreasing the amperage draw and putting a light on there that's probably 10 times greater than what they have now. And being able to help them dive into that and look at it and say, all right, I want to do these surface mounts on the body high side. I want to do a couple pole lights and a brow light. Even on our brow lights, we can take our existing brow, whether it's a Focus or Evolution, and go ahead with just an adapter plate and go ahead and upfit that on there. We did a rig recon episode there when we were up in Mishawaka and showed how to upgrade your lights there with that. And even the Unity lights on the back, the ability to put a So Bright in its place, or even up on the bucket or the Collins Dynamics. All those are upgradable and they're super simple. You're looking at a 5 to 10 a minute install. It's basically cut, strip, and crimp, and a couple set screws, lock it down, and you're pretty well done. And all the guys are proficient in that just by walking around and looking at, do we really want a 32,000 lumen here, or does a 20,000 or 15,000 actually work in this case? So that's
You
the
touched
big.
on something huge there. You touched on something huge there. Our guys are not going to go out and just try and sell you the most expensive, brightest light. They're going to talk about what makes sense for that application.
Correct. And that's the biggest thing is, right, is being that we always use the term trusted advisor. We want to go in there and make you look at it and understand, okay, what kind of pattern is this going to give me? With the different videos that we did there on the football field, the ability to look at how that transpires out, right? Is it a wide pattern like on a 950 versus a narrow pattern on a 900? What are you truly looking for, right? On that surface mount, or how am I casting a light? If I wanted to do a high rise, that Spectra that we offer, that can be back, 100 feet and cast light 80 foot wide, 120 foot tall. That's huge, right? That's a great option that very few people talk about. But you put that on one of the poles, even on an upgrade for a city department, that means a lot to them. The other thing is, people don't think about it, but your portable lights on a KR700 base or something like that, or your removable pole lights, you can upgrade those too. Again, it's super simple. That KR700 base on the older models of the Evo or the magnifier, you can go ahead, unscrew that 3/4 MPT, go ahead and put the plug on it, and off you go. I mean, it's simple. So
Two things before we move on from lighting that I wanted to point out quick. One is you talked about an upgrade from a halogen. So something that I think is important for our audience to understand, you bought a halogen light 15, 20 years ago. And when you bought it, it was in service for several years and it worked. And then the bulb finally blew and you replaced the bulb. And now you're probably struggling because the bulbs keep blowing. And you're like, oh, this light just doesn't work anymore. It's not the light, it's the bulb. And the problem is there's no solution for you. The industry used to make a highly vibration resistant bulb. It was a special bulb that was produced for an over the road vehicle. That production went away. In fact, FRC searched for people to make this bulb and no one will make it anymore. So now you buy a bulb from Home Depot, from Lowe's, and it's not made for vibration. So you take all the care you can in not getting the oils from your finger on it. You get it installed in that truck and 2 weeks later it blows out. And you're like, what's going on here? Why do I keep doing this? Unfortunately, The unfortunate reality is they're never going to hold up anymore because that bulb is not produced anymore. The other thing with lighting that I just wanted to bring up quick is Andy mentioned we've got a team of 6, 7 regionals out there working the country. We did a podcast earlier this year with Wilbert. Wilbert has a team of, I believe it's 7 or 8 regionals working the country as well that's specifically look at lighting. They are all equipped and have the knowledge of the FRC product, so they can come in and help you with lighting upgrades as well. So it's another resource you can call on.
Exactly.
With that, let's talk just briefly. You touched on roll-up doors already. You touched on what our team does. The one thing I want to make sure everyone understands something. Our regional team, Andy hit it on the head. He said they're educational. They can help you with some service. They're not a field service team. So if you've got a series of issues with a door, they're not going to be able to come out and rebuild that door for you on site and just do that. They have contacts on who can do that. They can hook you up with service people. But what they are going to be able to do is give you tips and tricks. So while they're there talking to you about all these other things, they can look at a roll-up door for you and talk about how to troubleshoot the switch, how to troubleshoot the lift bar. One of the biggest ones, and Andy, maybe you want to touch on it, is maintenance of the door. How to just keep it clean.
So yeah, I think the biggest thing is some people think they can pressure wash those and you really can't. You have to wash them with just regular, soap and water and get the debris out of it. Something else that I've ran into is a couple times is the upper seal not being in there, and with a vent inside, that will go ahead and just allow debris to come right in because maybe they have petroleum products in that compartment and they wanted to be able to air it out. But I've seen where that has caused some issues. But the biggest thing is that ability to clean the door and then use a dry silicone lubricant on the shoes, on the edge, inside of the rail to go ahead and get that lubricant in there. You don't want to use something that'll stay, liquid form, because then now it's going to attract more product in there and do that. So we want to keep that a dry silicone. The other thing is the tension of the door. A lot of times we go into the place and people think that door should snap right back up when you let go of it, and it shouldn't. The term that we use is zero buoyancy, to where it will sit there and maintain the position that you leave it in. That's a big one, for us going in there and helping out to look at that. And it's very easy to adjust that. I don't recommend doing it without watching a video or having someone teach how to do it, but it's something that, we need to look at. I think the biggest thing is that if you do need a part, we need the serial number off the door, and that's in the lower left-hand corner. That's where everything starts. We can basically reference that based on what width it was, what options it came with, what series it was. I mean, we're about to enter into Series 5, so it's a matter of knowing which door that is, which lift bar, and then everything else along those lines. So that's a critical part of it. Talking about the seals or adjusting something within, as I mentioned before, a scratch in the door, a dent, or something else, pretty easy to go ahead and make those changes. And a lot of times we'll go into a shop, whether it's even at a Pillar City or another department or a dealer, And we'll bring Marcus in to do a class, or we'll go in and assist with, hey, this is what you really need to look at getting for this before they order a bunch of parts to go ahead and do it. So
An old school tension test. May he rest in peace. Terry Bay is no longer with us, but Terry had taught me years ago, open the door halfway and let it there. And then 2 fingers. With 2 fingers above the lift bar or below the lift bar, you should be able to move it up and down. If it's taking more than that, your tension's off. I had a customer years ago that wanted, when you lift the lift bar, they wanted the door to fly right up. We can do that, but you're going to have problems. Yep. You're going to wear out the shoes. You're going to wear out the rubber block. You're going to wear out the header because it's going to smash every time it goes up. So it can be done, but careful what you wish for, I guess is the way I would put it. And that's the little knowledge that our team can bring to the table for you.
Exactly. And, I mean, they know how to change out a lower rail. They know how to change out, all kinds of different things, shoes, whatever it may be, to be able to go ahead and take care of that door, or, give you some direction of, hey, this is what's wrong with it, just by feeling it. Right. That's a critical part of what we're doing.
Yeah. And as we wrap up, we did talk about it earlier, but one of the first podcasts that we did on Rig Recon was about foam and how Class A is not hazardous and the new Class Bs are safe. And like Jason mentioned, we're also going to be doing a webinar on foam system sizing, but maybe let's circle back and discuss the things that our team can do with when it comes to maintenance of the Foam Pro systems and sizing of a new system.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is if they're in the door or talking to the customer, whether it's on the phone or whatever, what are the points that we're looking for? The number one thing I always hear is a bad ground. That's the number one thing. It's got to be grounded all the way back to the battery. So many people try to shortcut it and just ground it to the chassis, or a lot of cases now pump modules are being built. So that's a separate entity that gets dropped on when it gets put on there. Did it have rubber isolators before they did that? So that's one of the first things that we always start to check for. And then, we can do a simulated flow to make sure of the accuracy. We can show them how to go ahead and make sure that the flow sensor is, dialed in and accurate to that point. And the other thing would be that the cleanouts for the drain or coming into the system are working, correctly or whatever it may be. That's about as far as we tend to get to, because after you get into that, now you're all the way into the pump house and the guy's legs are hanging out, and that makes it pretty difficult for us to be able to dissect that. And I'm a firm believer that once we start messing with electrical, whether we're testing something or doing something, I prefer somebody else do that. That we have a technician along from the dealership or somebody to help with that. Just because, we don't have the different meters and stuff that they can go ahead and determine what's working right or what's not. And, the other thing is, you talked about sizing of systems. It's funny. We offer a variety of products across all 3 lines. And what I mean by that is, on the Elkhart side, we can do an eductor. We can do a hydrofoam, right? I can do from 30 gallons a minute up to 250 in an eductor. I can do from 350 to 2,000 on a hydrofoam. Those are all basically just, self-drawing type products that go ahead and operate either a 200 PSI or 100 PSI. And then we get into the around the pump styles with the FRC brand or the Turbo Foam or different ones along those lines. And then we get into the Foam Pro. So when you think about it, we offer 3 different products. So looking at what is the customer looking for, how much are they looking to induct, meaning how many, what percentage are they looking at, something from 0.1% to 1%, or are they looking for something all the way up to 6%? So that, and then how big does the system need to be? A lot of people don't think about it, but if I'm going to flow, I don't know, 500 gallons a minute at 6%, that's 30 gallons of concentrate a minute. That's a lot of product. and you've got to have that on board, where most people are carrying 3 5-gallon pails in their dunnage area, and they think that they can put out a tanker fire. And that's not the case, right? Or somebody thinks the system they have is so robust when it really isn't. You need to start looking at the AccuMax series that'll do up to 300 gallons a minute of product for something super, sized, whether it's industrial application or something along those lines.
I'm gonna put you on the spot, and if you get
Oh
it
boy.
wrong, Dan Tyrell's gonna come find you.
Okay.
Direct injection foam system, number one maintenance thing to look at.
I would say would be the screen itself, coming off of it.
Yeah, the strainer.
Yep, the strainer.
Yep.
That's the number one thing that gets clogged. And people get a new rig and they're like, this thing doesn't work. Well, it's typically the plastic from when they drilled and tapped the tank that's getting hung up in there is what I see a lot of. So, or somebody mixed. What's that?
Go ahead. You're going right where I was going to go.
Yep. And the other thing is somebody went ahead and mixed a foam in there. They thought they got it cleaned out and it wasn't. And next thing you know, now they got something congealing in there that looks like a jellyfish, and that's not what they want. So
here's my other favorite pro tip on it. If you go to check your strainer and make sure that it's clear and you say, I don't have a strainer, you have a problem.
Yes.
There's supposed to be a strainer in there. Yep. And if you don't find one, you're not talking a rebuild on your rig. It's pretty simple to add an inline strainer to the inlet side. But if you don't have one, you need one.
Yeah, exactly.
One last thing here, Andy. I think it'd be neat to highlight maybe one of your favorite or most memorable success stories. And you don't have to name names or departments if you don't want to, but maybe walk us through when you came into a department or somewhere and you did a know your flow or talked about lighting and it maybe completely changed their perspective of how they were operating just based on the information and the education that you provided.
Yeah, it's one that actually Eric highlighted last week. I was asked to go up to Sergeant Bluff, Iowa, which is in the middle of pretty much the corner of South Dakota, Nebraska, and Iowa. And we were asked to come in and do a know your flow type class. We touched on foam. We touched on a lot of things. It was a 2-day deal, but the second day was all towards end users. The first day was more towards dealers. And we were able to work with Chief Anthony Gall up there. And so when someone's able to do a hat trick, right, where you can do 3 demos in a day and traveling in between, that's an accomplishment. And I can tell you, it takes a lot to be able to get that done, especially if you're traveling between setup and making sure everything dials in. That day we did 4 demos and we didn't have to move anywhere. So we took that out of it, but man, that was a grand slam, I guess is the best way to put it. But it was a day. And I mean, we started right at 7:00. I was there and we didn't go back till almost 9:30 that night. And the amount of people that we touched that day was significant, but unbeknownst to me, Chief Gall went on our website and found the president of the division and went ahead and called him and told him what an awesome job that we did, but what we brought to that region that not many people do. And that really tells you that what you're doing means a lot. I'm all about the educational aspect of this and educating the consumer and getting to that point. But it's also the light bulb moment that continues to drive me to do what I do. And every one of us, right? Because every guy works from his home and he has to be self-motivated. Very little times am I having to get on somebody to get out and do something. Everybody's out there making things happen in their region or going and assisting one of the guys in another region or learning it, right? Our onboarding process, the 2 latest guys that we brought on board, we're looking at 9 week process of riding with them and going out and showing them the way that we like to conduct business. And it's a matter of bringing that customer the education, and everything else will follow to it. Like we said before, we can't sell them anything. I'm not there to sell you something. I can tell you there's plenty of times I've sold someone else's product because it made better sense, and it's a matter of getting that trust. And I mean, I still have people from the first company I ever worked for that call me and ask me for a part number and ask me for a product to be able to go ahead and do that. So that's important. This business is a relationship business, and
Absolutely.
it takes forever to build it, and it takes, one time just to mess it up, and that's not what we're about. So we want to be the guys that are out there taking care of people and doing that. So
Excellent point.
Yeah, so as we wrap up, I think we covered a lot of great stuff today. Andy, do appreciate your time. And again, if anybody is interested in a product demo, know your flow course, on all of our websites, there's a contact us button. You can fill out a form, or we do list the company directory and it has the guys' regions and their contact information as well. So please do not hesitate to reach out. Like Andy said, our guys are knowledgeable in a lot of different brands, a lot of different products that we have. And if they don't know the answer, they will do everything they can to find you the answer. And I'm sure we have someone here who knows the answer. So I think that's a crucial thing. Usually, Andy, Jason, at the end of the show, I wrap it up and open up the floor for any final comments or summary. So, Andy, Jason, take it away.
go ahead, Jason.
Andy, I'd just like to thank you for your time and make sure everyone understands the last point Andy had there is probably a great takeaway. There are times that you will find any one of our regionals comes out to talk to you and starts to talk about a product and says, you know what? We might not have the best solution for you. And I know who does. They won't hesitate to do that. I will say 9 times out of 10, we do have the right solution for you. But that one time that comes up, we're not going to hesitate to shoot you straight. And that's that trusted advisor part.
Yep. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that we're approachable. We're guys that, throw the gear on, go out and flow and do whatever we got to do, or go to the trainings and do that. And, we're seeing the benefits of that by being out there and building upon everything that we've been doing, for the last, whatever many years, building the team and getting the right guys in the right position, and making sure that they're there to help you, right? You have multiple aspects of this whole company. When you look at all 4 brands, all the people that are involved, it really starts to get to be quite large. So start with the regional and then work your way from there. They'll get you to the right person if they can't help you, as you mentioned. So we look forward to flowing with people. We look forward to getting out there and getting to know people. So that's the biggest thing.
Well, this has been another episode of Rig Recon Live. Again, if you haven't already, you can find this podcast wherever you get it, including YouTube. Make sure you catch up on all the latest episodes. We have a full season 1 and season 2 this year. We're even starting to work on next season. So we'll be here for a while. So make sure you catch up. You can follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram or Facebook. That's at Rig Recon. And then most importantly, visit our website, rigrecon.com, for all the latest apparatus information. Until then, expect the best.